Alright, what's up guys? Back with another build video. I know I already came out with a Stam DK tank build. Pretty excited about that setup, but people were asking about an actual like 1vx Stam DK setup, like a small scale setup, so wanted to remake this. Wanted to come out with this video because the last time I did it was last time I came out with this video was, before Morrowind, so yeah. If you saw my previous build video, this is basically that. I haven't changed the skills, I haven't changed the CP, or I haven't changed the skills, I haven't changed the gear at all. I still enjoy it. I adjusted the CP, obviously, I adjusted the enchants and everything. So if you've seen it before, this is not much new. I'm going to go into the gear, I'll go into everything, and then I'm going to kind of explain why we're running what we're running once we're done with that, if you're still interested. So we are running 5 Plague Doctor on the body, all impenetrable. This 5-piece set I think is very good for a lot of reasons. It gives you a lot of health, and the reason this is so valuable is that because of this food, or because of this gear set, we can then run this food. This allows us to run our Lavafoot Soup and Saltreese, which is max stamina and stamina recovery. So by running Plague Doctor, because Plague Doctor gives us so much health, we're running all stamina enchants, and we are running max stamina recovery food. We're at 38.9k stamina, and we're at 23k health outside of PvP. In PvP, we're at 29k stamina. It's very, very strong. We don't need a bunch of magicka, since we're running enough recovery to where we don't need to spam Igneous for Stam sustain. This is my favorite way to run it. So we are running 5 Plague Doctor. On our front bar, we are running 3 Jewelry, and then the Sword and Shield of Morag Tong. As far as the weapon goes, it doesn't have to be the sword. It can be the mace, it can be the maul, it can be the dagger. It doesn't matter for Sword and Shield. You just need a sharpened one-handed weapon on the front bar. Imp and Shield I'm running, and then the double damage health poisons. Morag Tong, if you haven't seen it before, here's the 5-piece. It is 124 weapon damage, 933 stamina, 124 weapon damage, and when you deal direct damage, you cause the enemy to take 10% more damage from all poison damage abilities for 5 seconds. Now, Stamina DK has a lot of poison abilities. This also buffs our poison, our actual poisons. So that's why we're running poisons on our front bar as well. To utilize this full Morag Tong set, we want to run as much poison as possible. We're running the Maelstrom Battle Axe on the back bar. Now, you can run whatever you want back here. That doesn't matter, but best in slot, in my opinion, is the Battle Axe. Our Vigor's on our Sword and Shield bar. If you put Vigor on your back bar, the Sword might be better because Sword gives you 5% more weapon damage, which increases your healing. But since Vigor's on our front bar, the Maelstrom Battle Axe can proc a bleed, which is very nice. It's another dot that we can add. The Maelstrom two-hander in general gives you the crit rush dot, which is another dot that we're applying. Very useful. If you don't have this, you can basically run anything here. You can run Morag Tong Battle Axe on the back bar if you want to, just to get the 120 weapon damage, and then you run an enchant on here. So you crit rush, you light attack, and then you get your weapon damage that way. You'll miss the crit rush, the crit charge enchant, but not that big of a deal. As far as monster set goes, we are running Tremor Scale. I know Tremor Scale gets some flack because it's very powerful. If you don't want to run Tremor Scale, you can run 2 Bloodspawn. You can run 1 Kina and 1 Veladret. You can run 1 Bloodspawn, 1 Kina. It doesn't really matter. You can even run whatever you want here, whatever you think's best. I think Tremor Scale is better than Selene. I think it's better than Veladreth as far as monster sets go for this setup. We are using Ransack, so the 50% proc chance that does a ton of damage, and the snare is very useful. We're not fast, so keeping people next to us and just beating on them while we apply our dots is very useful. As far as enchants go, we are running 2 weapon damage enchants and 1 recovery. You can definitely run 3 weapon damage enchants this patch with this setup and still be very, very good with the amount of, as long as you wind up your heavy attacks and you're patient. Now, Morag Tong, since we are running so many dots and we're buffing those dots, the flat damage isn't as important to me as the sustain, so I am running 1 recovery. In no CP, if you go into battlegrounds, I would just get rid of 1 Morag Tong jewelry weapon damage, and I would just run 2. and you can run 1 weapon damage and 2 recovery. The 5 Morag Tong isn't as good as 5 Viper and no CP. It's just the proc in no CP is just way better than the increased dot damage. People die so fast, so this still is good. It's still very useful in there, but where this shines is in CP, either in dueling or in open world PvP. I dueled my buddy. Basically, what we did is I kept the same 5-piece Plague Doctor with the Tremor, and then I took out Morag Tong and I put in Viper. And with CP, he was able to get used to the Viper proc and the amount of damage that it was doing, but he was having a very hard time dealing with the increased dot damage nonstop. So I like Morag Tong a lot better in CP. I like it a lot better in open world PvP. I think it's just the better 5-piece set. So that's up to you. Yeah. As far as skills go, we are running on our Sword and Shield bar. We are running Resolving Vigor, Defensive Stance. This reflects 1 projectile, and it while you have a shield equipped and this ability slotted, the amount of damage you can block is increased by 8%, and the cost of blocking is reduced by 8%. So this is a huge skill to have on this bar. So when we get focused, because we don't have movement speed, because we don't have cloak, because we don't have purify, and we can't, and we don't have streak like some of the other stamina classes, we have to turtle up, and this allows us to turtle up. We do have major mending. We get major mending with Igneous Shield for 3 seconds. So we're going to pop our Igneous, we're going to hit our Resolving Vigor, and this is where we're going to turtle up and try and stay alive. Defensive Stance is just very useful for when you're getting focused by a few people. Somebody hits you with a Vampire's Bane, you reflect it, it stuns them, now you can focus on the other person while they're CC'd. Reverberating Bash is our CC. It does very small damage, but it afflicts the enemy with Major Defile, reduces their healing received by 30% for 10 seconds. Igneous, like I said. And then our spammable DPS is Ransack, and our front bar ultimate is Spell Wall. That's the gear. That's the skills. As far as CP goes, we're running 40 into Warlord, reduced cost to break free by 16%, 37 into Tenacity, 3 into Arcanist. That doesn't matter. One of my buddies was kind enough to send me to Alcast's video, and basically what Alcast was saying is how your CP is set up is it rounds everything down. So if you're at 12.25% stamina recovery here, or if you're at 12.99% stamina recovery, it'll still put you at 12%. So any extra invested points in here isn't useful. So we just get to just above the threshold for all of our CP, and then we move on to the next thing that we want. So we have 56 into Mooncalf for our stam recovery, 37 into Tenacity, 56 into Shadow Ward. This is very important. Like I said, we don't have movement speed, so we will be blocking on our front bar when we're taking damage. This reduces the cost of block. This allows us to sustain a lot better. A couple points into Tumbling. We will dodge roll occasionally, like all of a sudden we get locked in Talons and then somebody drops a Destro ulti. We want to be able to reduce. We will be roll dodging a little bit, so we want to make sure we have some in there. 32 into Blessed. It increases your healing done by 8%. Very useful. Actually, this is still wrong. Hold on 1 second. We're going to take some out of here. We're running 56 into Mighty, 15 into Piercing, 56 into Thaumaturge. That's all right. We'll go like this. We want to put points into Master at Arms, for sure. And then we're going to put more points into Master at Arms in general. Alright, I'll put us there. And then we put our points in. Let's see if I can get. We'll put 10 into Piercing. There we go. There we go. Alright, so 32 into Blessed, 23 into Master at Arms, 14 into Physical Weapon Expert. We are doing a lot of light and heavy attacks. Increase your weapon damage done with light and heavy attacks for two-handed, one-handed shield. We are running a one-handed shield. We will be doing light and heavy attacks with our two-hander. This stacks our damage quite a bit better. We want to run a lot of points into Thaumaturge with this type of setup because we're running a lot of damage over time effects with this. So we want to boost that quite a bit. 56 into Mighty, yeah. And then 40 into Resistant, 48 into Ironclad, 50 in an elemental defender, 50 in a hardy, 11 in a thick skin, and 11 in a quick recovery. So that is the CP layout for this setup, in my opinion. As far as what our stats look like, if I fully buff up and I take a tripod, we are sitting here. We're at 1900 stamina recovery, 38.8k stamina, 23k health outside of PvP, so we're at 28k health. 2473 weapon damage, 2551 crit resist, and good resistances in general because, you know, we're wearing heavy armor. Crit resist is low, obviously. That's not as big of a deal. Our Mundus Stone, we are running the Serpent Mundus Stone because if we do go into battlegrounds, all we have to do is switch one enchant, so I just have an extra ring on me, jump right in, and I'm fine. And we are running lava, like I said before, we're running Lava Foot, Soup, and Saltreese for our food, which gives us max stamina and stamina recovery. As far as potions go, we're running tripods, and then we want to run these immovable movement speed potions. These are very useful for open world. If you're playing topside and you're trying to do small scale, you want these potions. These will allow you to kite and get around areas. If you don't run these, you kind of get, you can get caught. Like you walk around a corner and there's a 12-man group, you're just dead. You know, you'll tank them for a little bit, but you're dead. There's not much you can do. These allow you to get away, back up, maybe make them go, you know what, I'm not going to chase this guy that far away, and all of a sudden that 12-man group turns into 3 or 4, and then you kill them. We're also running Lingering Health for when we do see all those guys, and we're like, holy shit, like that's a lot of people. I'm going to pop my Lingering Health pot, I'm going to get my Major Mending, I'm going to get my Major Vitality, I'm going to pop my Vigor. I get 30% Major Vitality, plus I get 30% Major Mending. My Vigor heals are going to be very good. And now I just turtle up, and I try and stay alive a little bit longer until my buddies show up or they get bored of trying to attack me. Yeah. So that's the gear, that's the CP, that's the potions, that's the food. Now, the questions I've gotten on Twitch and on here is, you know, why aren't you running Shuffle? Why aren't you running Shuffle is the main one, and then why Plague Doctor is the other one. Now, as I said before on the previous video, and you can go back and watch it. I'll put a link in the description below of the previous video, and I'll go through the explanation. I go through the explanation better there. But I ran a test of morag tong plus tremor, the exact same setups, and then I had 5-piece Hundings, I had 5-piece Black Rose, and I had 5-piece Plague Doctor. And what I found is the damage was all very similar. Hunding's Rage did give me more damage, but it was for 200 or 300 less stamina recovery, and it was for 6,000 less health, and it was only like 2 to 3% more damage. So I preferred the Plague Doctor. I did miss out on a little bit of damage, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't a big deal. I get increased healing with Plague Doctor since I get the 4% healing received, which is very nice, obviously. 4% healing taken, my bad. That comes in handy. And then with this food, I can run the max stam recovery. It gives me more recovery, and it gives me more stamina, which equals out to more weapon damage over like Black Rose and Dubious Cameron Throne. So that's why I like Plague Doctor. Now, you can ask, you know, why aren't you running Shuffle? The main reason I'm not running Shuffle with this setup is, you know, I've just been used to it, and what I find in Heavy is the snare immunity doesn't last long enough for us to get away. So like on our Stamina Nightblade, on a Stam Sork, if we're running high movement speed and we're running a bow and somebody locks us in talons, or we get caught in caltrops, what we can do is we can hit Shuffle and we can dodge roll, or we can hit Shuffle and we can streak and we can get out of there, and like we have enough snare immunity time to where we can get away. On this Stamina DK build, without running those movement speed potions, we don't have that kind of recovery. Shuffle's very expensive, so what happens is we hit Shuffle and we try to get away, and we're not fast, and so what happens is we just, you know, we have no snare immunity for like 2 or 3 seconds, and then they lock us in talons from here, and then we get here, and then they lock us in talons over here because we can't get the distance to use it properly. Now you can say that and you're not wrong when you say major evasion is very valuable. It absolutely is, but you know, I've personally found being able to just go like this and hold block and cast Vigor, and go like this and try and line of sight a little bit, that keeps me alive much longer than casting Shuffle does. Because when we're getting beat on, we're not going to be able to cast Shuffle a whole lot. Shuffle's very expensive. That's why we're not running it. Also, the other main reason we're running it is because we're not running shuffles, because now we can fit an execute on our back bar. So I'll go through the combinations here on some low health ads, and you'll just, this is just ads, so it's not that big of a deal, but we have rally on our back bar. Let's say this is a bad guy. What we're going to do is we're going to crit rush in. We'll weave our dots, we're going to hit him with our claw, we're going to hit him with our noxious breath, and now that's 3 dots. And the reason I like this setup so much, I don't think we're going to be able to hit an ad with high enough health to actually go through the full combo. The reason I like this setup so much is because this merciless charge dot is a damage over time effect. We're then running an axe bleed potentially, as far as like the passive for the axe. That's another dot. This venomous claw is also a dot. So that's 3 dots on our back bar. We're running noxious breath, which is another dot. So on our back bar alone, we're running 4 potential effects that have to be purged. So we're running 4 on that bar. On the front bar, we're running poisons, which is 5. We have tremor scale, and tremor scale, the reduced movement speed is another effect. So that's 6, and then 4, 5, 6, and then we're also running reverberating bash, which is major defile, which is 7. So we're running 7 different effects that we can affect people with, and if they all proc on somebody, like let's say a Magica Templar, and you know I've heard the belief that dots don't work in PvP, and that's not true. Because what happens is when all of a sudden you hit him with that dot, and you hit him with this dot, and you hit him with this dot, and then your poison procs in your front bar, and then you hit him with ransack and your tremor scale procs, and then you hit him with reverb, they have to purify twice. And so now as a Templar, they're on their back bar, they have to purify twice to get all those dots off them. And if they purify, you can just reapply them because they're so cheap. And so now they're playing the purify game, and you're playing, look, I mean, Venomous Claw is 1125, Noxious Breath is 2250. You can just apply these to them over and over again. And then eventually what's going to happen is they're not going to purify, and then you're going to hit them with a reverb, or you're going to hit them with a tremor scale, and then you're going to hit them with a reverb, and then you're going to leap on them like this, and then you're going to execute because your execute's on your back bar because you're not running shuffle. That's the main reason I'm running it this way, is because then I can fit my execute on my back bar. I want to run both poison dots. I know ransack and noxious breath both give major fracture, but we want to buff poison when we're running morag tong, and so we want to run as much poison as possible. So that's why I'm running both of those dots, and that's why I'm running poison enchants poison double drain health poisons on the front bar. So yeah, so it's a lot of sustained dot pressure with this build with morag tong, and then it also allows you with tremor scale, with the amount of damage we have, since we have a good amount of max stamina, since we're running morag tong, which is a very good 4-piece damage set. It's one of the best 4 pieces in the game, if not the best 4 piece in the game for PvP. Very strong set, so we're hitting very hard. Yeah. What else was I going to say? So it's a lot of dot pressure, and then it's a lot of burst damage. So if we go to our handy practice dummy so we can show the full combination, we'll crit rush in, which is our dot. We're going to light attack, noxious breath, or venomous claw, weave, heavy attack, noxious breath. We're going to switch to our other bar. When we hit with ransack, those are now buffed by 10%. The tremor scale goes off, and now we're doing a lot of burst damage with our light attack, ransack, bash, and then when tremor scale, it's just a ton of damage. When you're dealing with sorks and stuff, you want to keep your dots up because this will just chew their shields, and then your tremor scale will also do a bunch of damage. Like, look at all those dots ticking right there, right now. It's a lot of damage to deal with when you're a sork. Even as a Templar, they'll just be stuck there purging. If they're purging, then they're not hitting Breath of Life, and then a tremor scale goes off, and then you can do your burst combo. So the main combo is when you get it all down, it'll be like this. And you do light attack, ransack, bash. When you see the tremor scale go off and it does that burst damage, you want to reverb, you want to leap, and then you want to execute. And that's how you're going to finish people. You want that tremor scale to snare them, and then you're going to CC them with your reverb, which gives them major defile, and then you're going to leap on them, which is more burst. If they're not dead for that combo, then have your execute. If they somehow still survive because you know they're a Magicosauric with really high wards, they're a very tanky DK as well, or they're a Magica Templar that has Breath of Life, all you have to do, since you did so much pressure, they're now ensnared in your dots, or they're now snared here. They have the 70% snare, and you can just reapply your dots, and then you can go to your front bar again, and you can do it all over again. Look, I already have my leap just by messing around a little bit there. So it's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of burst damage, and then a lot of pressure with the dots. Now, the only class that will give you trouble in general with this setup is a Stamina Nightblade that's very kitey. Now, I wanted to provide a couple tips for them in general, but you have to play it slow against a Stam Nightblade because they'll be able to cloak, they'll be able to get away from your damage, whatever. In general, most Stamina Nightblades, I would know, I am one, most Stamina Nightblades are very squishy. Most of them are running medium armor because they hit so hard, so you just want to be patient. So if this guy's a Stamina Nightblade, I want to make sure I have my Vigor up, I want to make sure I have my Rally up, and I'm going to play the patient game with them. So when I crit rush in, I hit him with that. I want to do full heavy attacks to apply my dots. Stamina Nightblades do not have major mending, so you want to get those dots on them as quick as possible. And then I'll do a full heavy attack, ransack, bash on the front bar. I want to keep my stamina up because if they hit me with an in cap, it's going to be major defile. It's going to be a lot of burst damage. So I want to keep my heals up so they can't burst me down, and then I want to keep my stamina up so they can't drain me of my resources. And then my dots are going to go to town on them. And then when I get them on the defensive, and all of a sudden they jump in at the wrong time and they're at a quarter health, and this tremor scale goes off, then I hit them with reverb, and then I hit them with lead, and then I go and start executing. If they try and cloak out, the main way to get them will be with your Noxious Breath. This is an AoE. It will pull them out of stealth. So you just have to kind of try and find them a little bit. If they want to keep cloaking, Stamina Nightblades can't. Stamina Nightblades can't permanently cloak in general. There are a few that are close, but if you get your full combo down here and you apply all your dots, you will not have to worry about them trying to cloak away because that snare is going to screw them over. And then you, like I said, you hit your reverb, you hit your leap, and then you hit your execute, and they're dead. What else was I going to say? So that's why I'm running Plague Doctor. That's why, we only need to run Morag Tong on the front bar. I've tested this, and I explained in the other video that I'll post below, but our back bar dots are buffed by front bar Morag Tong. I've tested this. Our poisons are buffed by Morag Tong. All we have to do with Morag Tong to proc it is, as I said before, when you deal direct damage, you cause the enemy to take 10% more damage from all poison damage abilities for 5 seconds. So our heavy attack or our ransack will buff our dots by 10%. So we want to crit rush in, and that's why we're on our back bar first. This is where our gap close is. That's where our poison dots are. And then now they're buffed. And now our poison went off, and that's now buffed too. And so we're just doing damage. As you can see, it's a lot of dots, and then we still do have really good damage in general with our leap, which is going to be our burst damage. So as far as our stats go, we got pretty good stats in general. Like I said, 39k stam, 1600 health, 2378 weapon damage, pretty good. 28k health, good resistances, good healing. So a lot of burst, a lot of dots, a really high stamina recovery for a sword and shield heavy armor build. This isn't taking into account the constitution passives or the fact that we'll just be able to be in front of somebody more and apply our heavy attacks more to get our resources. So yeah, this is my setup in its entirety. If you have any questions, please comment in the section below. I'll do my best to answer it. Yeah, that'll be it. Thank you. Have a nice day.